Coming up on All About Android, we're celebrating 5 years of Kotlin, navigating Android 13 betas, talking Motorola mid-range phones, 64-bit apps, and more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is All About Android, episode 592 for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. Kotlin makes Android innovation fun. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by ClickUp, the productivity platform that'll save you 1 day a week on work guaranteed. Use code ANDROID to get 15% off ClickUp's massive unlimited plan for a year, meaning you can start reclaiming your time for under $5 a month. Sign up today at clickup.com. Hurry, this offer ends soon. And by Policy Genius. If someone relies on your financial support, whether it's a child, parent, or even a business partner, you need life insurance. Head to policygenius.com/AAA to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. And by Blueland. Blueland is on a mission to eliminate single-use plastics by reinventing home essentials that are good for you and the planet. Right now, you can get 15% off your first order when you go to blueland.com/AAA. Welcome to All About Android, your weekly source to the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm Huyn Twitdow.
And Huyn, guess what? This is our first solo show, you and me alone.
It's just the two of us.
So Jason is not here. Michelle is not here. Flo is not here. Guests are all on vacation. It's the dog days of summer. So Huyn, I'm really excited to do a show, just you and I talking Android.
I love it.
Really. Just it's a chance for us to bond, really. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's quality time. I'm the new girl who you get to show me some more ropes, and we can talk about stuff that we can't talk about when Jason isn't here. I love it.
Exactly. And for those of you who are watching live, you missed out on some awesome Transformers talk. So that's all the more reason to tune in to twit.tv/live after 5 o'clock Pacific on Tuesdays to see the pre-show mayhem that happens as we make fun of Burke as he gets the show ready. But this week we actually have a packed show. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, including a lot of stuff about Android 13, a lot of stuff about Kotlin, about 64-bit, about OnePlus and OPPO, and like a ton of stuff this week. I'm really excited. So with that, Huyn, why don't we do some news? What do you say?
Let's do it. Let's do some news.
Okay.
Well, Ron, just like my mediocre voiceover skills, Android beta is returning to the news.
There it is.
It is. Well, yes, as Burke just mentioned, there are more chapters in the ongoing story of Android 13. And by chapters, I really just mean quarterly platform releases, QPRs. So just like we had with 12, the Android 13 beta program will continue, but with these quarterly platform releases. So you can kind of think of the latest stable release as QPR 0, and then we will continue with Android 13 QPR 1. So there is an Android beta for Pixel, continuing saga of quarterly platform releases. Now, if you are one of the many people who happen to have signed up for the Android beta program to test Android 13, you need to pay attention, because if you do not unroll, you will be pushed into the continued QPR testing. And not only that, if you do want to unroll, you got to do it fast, because if you don't unenroll now and you end up in the QPR 1, beta 1, when you unenroll, it will be a data wipe. Like your phone will be forced data wipe. So if you want to unroll, do it now before the beta 1 starts. I don't know why this is a thing. Maybe there's a very reasonable reason for this, but that's just like unenroll now or we take all your stuff. So
how is this a thing now and not with 12? Like, how did this not happen? Why is this like, that's my question. Like, what changed that is causing this?
I have no clue at all. I would love to dig into the technical details of this. Android fam, Google fam, if you're listening, can someone please explain to us why this is? Is it a security thing? Is it just the mechanics of how the betas get rolled out? But it kind of sucks. So like, if you're not interested in betas, just get out now. And if you happen to forget or listen to this podcast, maybe like after the QPR1 beta hits, you will need to wait 3 months more for QPR1 to be stable for you to get a data lossless enroll. So it does seem like you need to be on a stable version to unenroll without getting your phone wiped. Once you end up on a proper beta, like a beta, you need to stay there if you don't want to wipe your phone, or go through maybe you maybe Mary Kondo your phone without enrolling from the beta program. So just be careful there. And not unlike Android 12, how we were talking about QPR 1, 2, 3, and 4, all the way through the summer, this is going to be the same case with Android 13. The QPR beta program will conclude in June 2023. Another confusing ass thing to keep in mind is that in regards to QPRs and pixel feature drops, these aren't one-to-one things. Pixel feature drops will have all the updates in the QPR, and on top of that, the Google Pixel proprietary software, components and apps, Google Play Services stuff, and all that. So if you were thinking that keep getting into the beta would get you some fancy Pixel feature drops early, nah. So get out now if you want to, and while you still can. And otherwise, if you're on the beta train, look forward to more QPRs. But in the vein of Android 13, so actually so I'm going to read this next one, but then there's breaking news on top of it. So until about an hour ago, my joke was now the breaking news. So not yet. So I had this really cute setup before about 90 minutes ago, but you know who you shouldn't ask about Android 13 updates is Carl Pei. And why is that? Because Carl Pei very recently, in response to a tweet asking about information on when Android 13 might be coming to Android, he responded in a tweet, quote, "A product is more than just specs, more than just its specs, features, and version numbers," which is basically the worst way of saying we don't have an Android 13 update release date yet. And obviously, to be fair, before we all collectively roll our eyes, right before the show, there was an update, and I believe they announced that Android 13 will be coming to the sorry, I kind of skipped it. So this is like when will Nothing Phone 1 get Android 13? It will get it later this, let me check that. Was it later this year? In the first half of 2023. 2023. Yeah. Okay. So maybe because all of us, maybe Carl Pei heard us all collectively roll our eyes at this idea that the Nothing Phone 1 is above numbers and specs.
Well, yeah. Well, Carl Pei's tweet there, saying that, a product is more than specs and a version number. And it's a way of being. It's a lifestyle choice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, and because on one hand, I see where he's coming from. Like, yes. I understand that, like, this insane, I don't want to say addiction, but insistence on the latest, the newest, the all stuff like that. When when the reality is that if the phone is tuned and set and optimized to work great on Android 12, if it does everything that you need to, who cares it's not on 13? Honestly, I'm sure, Dave Burke and everybody at Google and everybody are all excited for Android 13, and that's the next thing to go. But right now, put me on the spot. I can't name one feature I'm getting in Android 13 that I need that changes my life, in that regard. Yes, there are new things coming from. Michelle's kind of rolling over right now, screaming at me. But there are tweaks and changes and stuff like that. But my phone runs Android 12 and everything's fine. Everything's working. It's doing its job, right? So I get where Carl Pei is coming, and that they're trying to steer away from, especially in terms of his maverick reputation. Trying to steer away from the sins of the past. If that makes sense.
No, that's really fair. And I think to lend some technical credence to that, I mean, Nothing OS is based on Android. So it's always, especially when it comes to an OEM or some other manufacturer who is building their own flavor of Android, of course, it's always going to take a little bit longer. And so whatever extra flavor, whatever specific brand oriented proprietary stuff they want to put on, it is going to just take longer. And I agree with you. To go with the idea and the image and the essence of what the Nothing Phone is, that makes a lot of sense. And as long as they make it right, that's great. I have to admit, I'm a software engineer. I'm biased. I think software updates are important. And I mean, they have already promised to support the Nothing Phone 1 with 3 years of Android OS updates, starting with 12, and 12 is pretty dang cool, as well as bi-monthly security updates for 4 years. So I do think it's fair. I think the way he said it, maybe
it's a little glib.
it's a little glib. It's not as appealing. And I think honestly, and maybe this, I mean, it's probably not his style to give the usual canned answer of, well, we're looking forward to something. We'll let you know something that we know we wouldn't be talking about it. But because I guess really going with the style of nothing, the way he said it, we're talking about it now. So we were going to talk about it because that very glib answer, but we did get a proper launch window, and Android 13 will be coming to the phone, the Nothing Phone 1 in the first half of 2023.
But
so there you go.
This is a great exercise, and honestly, this has echoes of OnePlus in the early days, right? Where Carl Pei says something online and everybody reacts, and then I'm sure the Nothing PR and CorpCom people were like, "What did he tweet? Oh God!" And so then they need to come up with a statement to like kind of somewhat do damage control. And this is the byproduct of social media and the challenge there with it, but also showing that when Carl says something, everyone is going to listen, and everyone's going to react. And as a company, they need to manage expectations because and the thing is, going back to kind of not defending, but kind of sharing his stance. It's not like the Nothing Phone 1 is running Android 10, right? It's not like the Surface Duo that didn't get the Microsoft didn't do the Android update for 2 years or whatever it was, anything ridiculous like that. It's going to get 13 in the first half of the year because they need to do what they're going to do with it. And it's a new phone and it's all this sort of stuff and. So on one hand, it's nice for their PR to let everyone know so it can calm down the storm. But man, now we see what a storm Carl can work up by just tweeting, like a sentence.
Very easily.
Yeah.
But I think valid point. So I guess we'll let nothing do nothing do nothing. Nothing do whatever. Nothing do something. Nothing do what nothing does. And then I guess we'll see what they do with Android 13 in the first half of 2023, which is not that far away, honestly. We just got 13 anyway, so.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when is Samsung getting 13? When is now this is the game of when does everyone get 13, right? And so if we're tracking, Nothing is getting it in the first half of 2023. We'll see when everybody else gets it too. So there's always a delay from Google's rollout of the OS to the OEMs adopting it and rolling out on their own, right? And we've seen them try to minimize that delay, and it's gotten shorter and shorter. I wouldn't be surprised if Samsung gets it, very, very, very soon, but I'm not surprised Nothing is waiting until early next year. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Notice how I went from Nothing saying first half of 2023 and I adopted it to early next year, right? And I made it. See, that's language. It's a fun thing.
I like that.
Well, speaking of moving on from that, speaking of the power of Twitter, I know a lot of us have been wondering what's Fitbit doing now after the Google acquisition and all this sort of stuff. When's the new stuff going to come? So Fitbit took to Twitter today, literally today, August 23rd, to subtly tell everyone to mark their calendar for August 24th, which is tomorrow. So if you're listening to this on your podcast feed, if you downloaded this on Wednesday, it's today, August 24th, likely going to be doing an event to feature their Sense 2 and Versa 4 smartwatches. And given all the movement around Wear OS and all this fun stuff, and like the question mark around what is going on at Fitbit, it will be curious to see how integrated these new Fitbit smartwatches are, whether they're running Wear OS, what the integration looks like, things like that. But man, I feel like you probably should give a little more heads up before you announce something. Like a day's notice doesn't seem like a lot. It just seems weird. So,
no, man. What if you had like a dentist appointment or something? Then you're going to be like getting your teeth filled in while you're missing out on the Fitbit announcement. What the heck, Fitbit?
What if we had plans?
I know. What if we had plans? I mean, I can't just drop everything for you. And I think it's interesting though, because we were talking earlier about the fact that we have like the Samsung watches, we have now with Google and Fitbit, and then Wear OS. Like it's like all these like kind of different things tugging at this whole like wearable, like all the wearable trends and the wearable pulse. Like where is like Fitbit now that it's part of Google going to land on this? And like how does like Fitbit already had like a really like large user base that liked all the things. Like where does Wear OS fit in? So it'll be nice to kind of answer that question, Tomorrow.
Well, especially coming out of the Samsung Unpacked event
Yes.
Earlier this month, where between the partnership between Google and Samsung, you see Samsung really pushing Wear OS and coming out with could arguably be said the best wearables on the market now are those Samsung watches, including one that is kind of directly aimed at fitness and fitness tracking and health tracking and all stuff like that, which is and was Fitbit's wheelhouse. So you would think that the in-house, I wonder if the people at Fitbit were watching Samsung Unpacked and they're just like, oh, come on, why can't we get this support? You got to imagine there's got to be some insider, what is going to make these different than or better than what Samsung rolled out or any other products are out there. So
yeah, that's a really interesting. I had this really interesting idea of this, of Google's dating both Fitbit and Samsung, and then having dates on alternate days, and then hopefully, but that's not really true because it's all public. But yeah, it is really interesting that their competitors maybe that's just interesting to see where the segments of the wear market could be divided, whether they will compete, whether there's a little. Not as much, but maybe there's not as much overlap as we think. So yeah, I will be interested. My mother-in-law loves her Fitbit, so who knows? Maybe I'll have a good Christmas present idea for this.
Fitbit. Yeah, there it goes. Fitbit has or had. I don't. And feel free, those of you watching live, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. Fitbit has loyalists. People love their Fitbit, going back for years and all this sort of stuff. And we've slowly seen that loyalty erode, with the Apple Watch emerging, and then that takes away some people, the iOS users that were using Fitbit, and then like I said, with the Samsung phones and with other phones coming up there. So Fitbit needs to assert their importance in the field again. So we'll see if these two new products with this announcement tomorrow can do it or not. Or they don't even say it's actually a launch event in the tweet, by the way. A lot of the blogs picked it up and are like, oh, they're having a launch event, but it just said mark your calendars. So who knows what we'll find out tomorrow. Very simple, 8/24/22, mark your calendars. It looks like watches though. So yeah.
Well, in terms in regards to marking calendars, a very important date happened for us Android developers back in May 2017. Yeah, I don't remember the exact date. I remember being in the audience when Stephanie Cuthbertson, then director of Android, announced official support for Kotlin as an Android development language. And this week, Google's celebrating it. They've got their hashtag #High5 Kotlin on Android, and they're just taking time to celebrate and I guess look back on 5 years of having Kotlin be a first-party development language for Android. And for those of us in the community, especially those of us that love Kotlin, it's been all uphill from that announcement, which I have to admit was my top 3 most exciting hype things at Google I/O that I've announced. I think material design is still kind of 2 or 3 because I was getting really tired of being a dev that kept having to defend, quote, Android design. And now then material got announced and it was awesome. But I think Kotlin was one thing that made us all stand up. And as part of the celebration, the Android developers are kind of talking to a lot of the community, both people in the community, like former guests in the show, Anise Davis over at Meetup, my very good friend who I'm trying to get on the show, Christina Lee over at Pinterest, people that were around and kind of telling the story of it. Actually, Christina is a really good example because she was the first person that I saw use Kotlin, I think March 2016. And I think, the Kotlin language thing is a very, very devy story. But I think what's really interesting and is a compliment to Google is that the adoption of this new language was totally driven by the community. So people like my friend Christina were using it. And there is, there's a really famous dev in the Android community. His name is Jake Wharton. If you've done any Android development, you probably know Jake. You might think of him as the Android Messiah. Sometimes I recall that. But he actually wrote a document for Square where he works that was basically this internal document that explained in 2015, 2 years before Kotlin became adopted, why is Kotlin great as a language, why it makes sense from an engineering perspective, productivity, business, all of this. It got circulated internally. He made it public. And from this, and not just Jake, but a lot of people in the community, adopting it, being enthusiastic for it. And to a lot of credit, the people that make Kotlin, JetBrains, from their whole philosophy of being pragmatic, but also interoperable, trying to make this JVM language, this Java virtual machine language, easy for people to pick up. Between that and the love that the community had for it, Android actually listened, and that's how we got Kotlin. So it's actually pretty amazing for a developer story for not just any old feature, but for a whole language to be adopted by a platform and because of like developer like desires. So it's kind of a big story. It doesn't happen that often, and Kotlin's an amazing language. So I think it's really cool, and I think it is worth celebrating. I think generally I'm pretty fluffy Kool-Aid drinking Android dev, and I generally feel that the Android development team tends to listen to us, and this is just one of those great stories. And to be truthful, Kotlin does make our jobs easier. So hopefully it makes all the Android faithful's experiences a little easier in part. A lot of things are written in Kotlin now, just like for example, Jetpack Compose, which we're talking about too freaking much. But yeah, so anyway. Drink every time Win says Jetpack Compose.
Jetpack Compose. That's the new drinking game.
There you go. Drink. But it's a really interesting story. If you are a dev, if you're an Android dev in particular, but if you're just a person that likes understanding technology, I would definitely kind of pay attention to some of the buzz, but also listen to the 2018 Kotlin Conf, which is the kind of official JetBrains Kotlin conference, and listen to Andre Breslov talk about the language. I think when any new thing, whether it's a programming language, a device, a platform is adopted, it's a lot of factors, not just technology, not just how cool it is, not just, how advanced it is, but the approach and the way that the person who builds that thing introduces it to other people. And I think it's a really interesting analysis on like pragmatism and like not just being cool, but what's the realistic way that people will adopt this thing. And like, I think as a technical talk, it's a really great one about kind of all the different things that make Kotlin. Why do devs talk about Kotlin so freaking much? And I think it's a great talk. So anyway, if you're into technical stuff, definitely listen to that. And if you get a chance to use Kotlin, and to my Android fam, happy 5 years of Kotlin on Android. Sorry,
so I gotta say, I remember I remember 5 years ago when Kotlin was like all the rage, right? When it was new, when it was a new topic, and understanding what it meant for developers and things like that. But we went really fast. I mean, so your friend Christina posted on it. So Christina said on Twitter, the decision by Google to add support for Kotlin, I think we underestimated how wild of a notion that was at the time. The odds of another company that size making a similar decision based on community support and enthusiasm is very low. Right. And so like when that tells the story right there, where it's like the developers said, we want this. And the fact that Google like listened and adopted them honestly is kind of crazy. Like that doesn't really happen in these large of companies. And it's great to see Anise Davis from Meetup, who friend of the show, has been on the show, also, kind of touting what was said, and she said on Twitter, she said, Kotlin has brought both joy to our engineers as well as increased efficiency to our development process, right? Yeah. And I do think that this little like celebration of 5 years on Kotlin is like kudos to Android developers for like calling it out and like celebrating it, and like because this also drives awareness of people of what it is and how it is fueling the apps that we all use. So so Huynh, I'm just curious to kind of what, like as a developer, do you feel as if obviously I know the answer because you love Jetpack Compose, but like this is in your experience, this has made you a better developer, has made Android development better, like overall, has this like this was the right move?
Absolutely. And I like to think of it as I think it has made me a better developer. And I was actually in the shower thinking about this, like, how can I like explain like why Kotlin is so important? And if like, I don't know, like if you think like back in the day, right? Like think of, I don't know, like a Greek, sorry, this is going to go really weird, but like think of people that think of like back in ancient Greek times when they would make sculptures like David's and like the Nikes, right? People were able to do amazing things, but without the technology that we have today. And of course, making beautiful, making useful, making durable things is a lot about skill, but the level to which you can like express yourself, the level to which you can build, the level of durability with which you can build something, and the speed at which you can do it increases with the tooling. And so that's what Kotlin is for developers. A bad developer will still write bad software, but a good developer will write good software. And with tools like Kotlin and things like it, we can write it faster and we can write it better, and we can focus on important details and not on less important things. So like, I don't know, like instead of having say like I don't know anything about sculpture. I'm very sorry. So instead of having what I imagine is like a pick and a chisel, imagine you had like a laser cutter or like 3D imaging, or you had like digital calipers that allowed you to kind of measure down to a nanometer. The person's talent and experience and training still matters, but you can really make them fly faster and farther if you give them the right tools. So that's what Kotlin is. And also just the way that Kotlin is, it allows us to focus on kind of more important things, which also include, reducing bugs, which is really important to everybody, and building software that is a lot more scalable and maintainable, which again are boring words, but really mean a lot. It's really boring until the day that your service goes down and you need to fix it. And there are a lot of things that go into that, but Kotlin is a big thing. It has definitely made me a better developer. I'm able to focus on more high level things, and it's just more fun to write. Like it's hard to describe why, if you're not a developer, why a language can be fun. But it's like, I don't know, it's like telling a person who, I don't know, like, I guess it's like a band, right? Like it's like having more instruments and more like, I don't know, notes to sing or something, or I don't know, just more adding like, I don't know, reverb or something. I don't know. There's just it's
a level up. It's
a level up.
Right?
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's a better way of saying it. So yeah, it definitely has, and I think people get really nerdy about it, and it's still constantly progressing. I think something that happens a lot, especially with tech, is that things get stale. There's always this joke in like programming circles about there's probably someone out there making like $300,000 a year writing Fortran or something, and that's actually a thing. But what's really fun is when you are able to do cool things and you are able to do it quickly and easily and experiment. And I think sometimes, especially in software, where innovation is not as flashy as say hardware innovation, it's hard to find things that make it fun, and Kotlin makes it fun. And it's a hard thing to like show on the front end, but believe us, we're all having a good time back here behind the keyboard. So yeah.
Well, so it sounds like you, Android developer, should have done a little quote tweet from you where you said Kotlin makes innovation fun, because like that's a slogan if I ever heard one. So yeah.
I appreciate it, but yeah, I appreciate y'all letting me talk about this. It is something that's important, and it like if you see I think for example, friend of the show Florina Muntenescu and other developers on the Android team were themselves very excited about Kotlin. And you kind of think of like a big company like Google having very strict standards and very like super processes about how you're supposed to do things. And while I assume that's true, there were so many people who were excited about Kotlin within the Android team. They were part of it too. Like they're devs just like us. And so they saw a thing, it was like, hey, let's help make this happen. And so it has went from this kind of hobbyist, kind of trendy thing to, this is our commitment. Actually, Kotlin is now the recommended language that you write Android in, which is again insane. And crazy. You can tell the commitment that the team has to writing Kotlin first and Kotlin only APIs, which is insane to think about 5 years ago. So yeah, it's a wild ride, and this kind of stuff you don't hear many stories like this in developer world. At least I haven't. So
well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, so happy birthday, Kotlin, Google adoption anniversary date, whatever the milestone is, 5 years. I can't believe it's been 5 years, because I remember when I was talking about it for the first time, and like Jason and I having a conversation, like, what is Kotlin? And like I'm pretty sure Gina was on the show at the time, maybe, or it might have been post Gina, but yeah, just really, really fascinating. So happy birthday, Kotlin and Google. Good job there. All right, great. So that was the news. And now we're going to take a break and thank our first sponsor of the evening, because this episode of All About Android is brought to you by ClickUp. Imagine having one extra day every week, more time to cook healthy meals, work on that novel, just binge some good TV. Hell, if I had an extra day in the week, I would spend it working on my startup, Scorbit, and playing pinball and taking the time that I don't have during the week to work on that project. And I'd probably spend some more time with my kids and play on the swings with them. But having more time is such a precious currency. And now it's all possible with ClickUp, the productivity platform that'll save you 1 day a week on work, guaranteed. ClickUp began with the premise that productivity was broken. There were too many tools to keep track of, too many things in entirely separate ecosystems. There had to be a more productive way to get through the daily hustle. ClickUp is the one tool to house all of your tasks, projects, docs, goals, spreadsheets, and more. ClickUp is built for teams from 1 to 1,000, and it's packed with features and customization options that no other productivity tool has, so you can work the way you work best. Whether you're in project management, engineering, sales, marketing, or HR, ClickUp has easy-to-use solutions that create a more efficient work environment. So join more than 800,000 highly productive teams using ClickUp today. Use code ANDROID to get 15% off ClickUp's massive unlimited plan for a year, meaning you can start reclaiming your time for under $5 a month. Sign up today at clickup.com and use code ANDROID. Hurry though, because this offer ends soon. And thank you, ClickUp, for sponsoring this episode of All About Android and making us more productive. We appreciate it. So, all right, with that, we've got some hardware to talk about. So let's go to it. All righty, so what's the latest with Motorola?
Yeah, well, I know, Ron, I know you love you some mid-range phones. So I have I've got another contender in the Android mid-range fight. So in this corner, we got Pixel 6a. In this corner, we have the Samsung A53. In another corner, it's a polygon. It's not a square. We got like the Nothing phone. In that corner, we have the Asus Zenfone 9. And now, new contender coming into the ring is the Motorola Edge, as reported by our very own Florence Ion. We have a new contender to the Android Mid-Range Championship. And the Edge is trying to offer you a flagship fight for a competitive $500. And Flo gave a little intro to the Edge. Please definitely check out Flo's articles as always. Now, just to give you a little overview, the Edge is the little sibling of the flagship Edge Plus, and it boasts full 5G connectivity, a 6.6-inch OLED screen with 144 hertz refresh rate, a 5,000 milliamp battery with 30-watt turbo power charging, 15-watt wireless charging, and 5-watt reverse charging. And it also carries a MediaTek Dimensity 1050 processor, which, while not bad, is not the fiercest competitor out there, boxing benchmarks. I don't know how this ended up being a lot of boxing puns. I'm so sorry. I didn't have my coffee this morning, so now you get boxing puns. So in terms of the cameras, which I will say, Flo notes that the Edge Plus, which is the flagship version, has middling cameras. So with that in mind, looking at the Edge for background cameras, it's got a double punch, of a 50 megapixel camera with OIS and a 13 megapixel ultra wide lens with macro vision. And the front camera is a 32 megapixel unit. And the primary camera does have phase detection autofocus, which is meant to be a little bit zippier when autofocusing. So we'll just have to see whether the Edge is punching out of its weight class when compared to the Pixel, Galaxy, Asus, Nothing, and whatever. I don't know. Ron, you like some mid-range phones. What do you think about the Edge?
I do. I'm loving the boxing paradigm here, but I will say that Motorola could be considered the longtime veteran of the mid-range boxing league because Motorola's been serving up this mid-range kind of corner of phones for definitely more than 5 years, if not, I mean, like the Motorola G line and stuff like that, like the Motos and things like that. So it's nice to see that they're continuing to do it. Everyone knows how much I adore our own Florence Ion, but I feel like she gets a little hard on the cameras. She's very specific on the cameras, which is fine, that's kind of her interest in that regard. But like, and honestly, I'll shout out to Dwindle in the chat who said that it's on the edge of being a budget phone, which is like really spot on. Like it is actually like it's on the lower end of the mid range, these phones, and that makes them more affordable, and that makes them Motorola is still giving that little bit of Moto. Like it's not quite AOSP. There's a little bit of Moto here and there, but not too much. It's not totally like Samsung or like complete total OS skin. I think having affordable options in the marketplace is a good thing, and Motorola has a proven track record. So I'm willing to back them in this race because they've proven they can do it. So.
And I think it's a really good point that even though we're classifying all these as mid-range, there is still quite a bit of difference
Range.
between the price, like tons of price range. And
Yeah.
I'm with you. I was a Moto fan for a long time. We talked about the make your own Moto, make your Moto.
Yeah, Moto Maker.
And Moto Maker. Yeah, I had a long time love for Motorola since my first phone was the Droid. Was that a Motorola phone? Yeah, it was a Motorola Droid one. And so I carried that Motorola love for a long time. And I would like to see a really good competitive mid-range, but you're right. It's not, and maybe this goes back to, what Carl Pei was trying to tell us is that, I'm sitting here reading out all these stats to y'all, but it's not like we can one-to-one compare and play specs bingo or whatever and come out with a winner. It really depends. And the price is actually super competitive. 500 is definitely on the lower side of mid-range, whereas I know I'm waiting for the dang Zenfone 9 to come up, but I think it's just mid-range. I actually feel a little bit bad calling it mid-range because I think it's $699. So I think it's very fair. I think even if something is not quite competing with the 6A or A53, it's probably going to be a phone for someone. So I will definitely like to see how it turns out.
I mean, because the thing is, it's very easy to give Google the edge here and say the 6A is the better phone to go, because if the Edge is going for $500 and the 6A is $449, there's a price difference, right? Except for the fact that if you're on Verizon, you're paying $500 for the 6A because the mmWave version, right? So keep that in mind. Depending on your carrier, that affects what the price that you're paying for that Pixel 6A, but also they're different phones, right? Yeah. So yes, the 6A, has got a smaller phone. It's got the more is a smaller phone, kind of in size, shape, bezel shape. It's got all the Google Pixel bells and whistles software support and things like that, and it's got great camera stuff that Google brings to the table. Something that Flo, in her review, is very kind of critical of the camera stuff. But the Motorola Edge has got a better display with a higher refresh rate. It's got faster charging and wireless charging, and it's got more RAM and more storage options, right? So depending on the type of user you are, if you want to have a phone that you don't need to worry about and getting the best that you can, not the best, but getting the optimized Google experience, go Pixel 6A. If you're someone who has $500 and more RAM or more storage is important to you, or wireless charging is important to you, the Motorola Edge is your option, right? They're not apples to apples here. It's more like Fuji apples to Red Delicious or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's definitely there are subtleties within each phone that need to be accounted for. So it's not, I don't think this is winning or losing. I think this is finding the right phone for the type of user that's out there. So
that's a really great point. I'm a Honeycrisp girl myself, but then maybe the real winner is mid-range consumers, because now they have choices and a lot of good choices for a lot of different use cases. So I'm with you. Let's see how the Edge. And I also adore the fact that was it the Edge is on the edge. The Edge is on the edge.
Yeah,
the Edge is on the edge of mid-range. I love it. So
yeah, it's pretty good. So speaking of more phones, we all know the Pixel 7 is coming. Right, the Pixel. I'm already seeing Pixel 6 on sale and stuff like that. But so the Pixel 7 is we've seen what it looks like, and we'll I want to ask you about that in a second, Huynh. But much like Android 13 arriving sooner than we thought, the Pixel 7 might be arriving sooner than we thought. Historically, Google has done an event in the October timeframe, mid to late October timeframe, to roll out the Pixel 7, roll out the Pixel series, and do their hardware updates. But recently, a FCC database listing for the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro was filed and listed publicly. It was actually found by the folks at 9 to 5 Google, which is usually something that happens about a month before the devices are unveiled. And so here we are, August 23rd, a month away is September 23rd. Are we going to see a Pixel event in late September, mid to late September, earlier than usual? Who knows? This is all speculation, but they're coming, and our video viewers can see a shot of what the Pixel 7 is going to look like. So, Huynh, I don't think I've heard of it. What do you think of just the initial look of what the Pixel 7 is rumored to look like, or is going to look like, because we've seen it from Google? How do you think that compares to the Pixel 6 design? Do you like it better, worse? What do you think?
I actually like it better. I do love the camera bump, and I think I've found out about myself that I love a different back design. So I went from being very skeptical about what the heck this like Ninja Turtle band is to being very into it. And I like the iteration, like it's a little bit thinner. I like the integration of the camera bump into the side bezels. I think that's very slick. So I'm into it. Like it looks a little more futuristic. I feel like the Pixel 6, it had, I'm not sure what the vibe it was giving me, but this has a little more futuristic like vibe. And like definitely like kind of Geordie LaForge kind of visor thing going.
Yeah, it definitely has a sci-fi vibe to it. I like it.
Sci-fi vibe to it.
It feels Star Trekky. It does feel Star
Trekky.
Yeah.
And I like what they're doing with the colorways. And I know it's kind of hard with like, with the flips of the world, like letting you to hyper customize thing. But I think that, user choice and colors and how to innovate on design. And I know half of us cover up with covers anyway, but I don't know. I just like that they're trying to really think about design and iterate on it. So I'm into it. I can almost definitely say I will get one because, to be honest, as much as I'm enjoying Samsung, I've become a lot more positive on it. I'm kind of finding I need a Pixel device for development, just if anything to keep up with betas and to keep up with stock Android. So I will definitely get one. It's just more of a question of the 7 or 7 Pro. I don't know, Ron, what do you think of this iteration of the design?
I'm liking it. Like I said, I think it's more sci-fi. It's more Star Trekky. I agree with you on that. Like I definitely, I'm with you in that I want a phone that looks different. And while the Pixel 6 did look different, even though I've been using it, I liked how it looked different, but it looked too much like a cosmetic case for me, kind of,
Yes.
Right. But this definitely feels more like sci-fi tech. And so I'm down for it. So if they have an event in September, I'll be there watching and I'll consider getting it. I'm probably due to upgrade my Pixel 6, but yeah, I definitely like the look, the direction it's going in. So.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Cool. All right. Well, so I'm jealous of you because you got the next story about a possible new foldable.
Now with both of us here, we kind of have to fight over like the fun large screen form factors. I know. We've got competing beats. But so this one's about one of our favorite topics, which is foldable, rollable, large screen, weird form factors. I guess we just like different. We like innovation. And OnePlus is set to join the foldable market as OPPO is prepping some new foldables for you. So we already have seen previously like OPPO's rollable concept, and they of course had the OPPO Find N, which is basically a very Galaxy Fold-ish foldable. Well, it really looks like OPPO is going after Galaxy, the Samsung Galaxies in kind of like their home turf. And the rumor is that OPPO later this year is going to release 2 foldables named, wait for it, the Find N Flip and the Find N Fold. And not only that, they are both
like laundry.
I know. It actually is really true. Flip and fold, like only like $10 for an entire load. But and both are rumored to use the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, which is already in the Z Fold 4 and the Z Flip 4. This is a lot of Fs. This is a lot of Fs going on. It's going to be a little bit awkward to say. So if you want your F-filled flagship foldable fun, you might look to OPPO this year instead of Samsung. So we'll see. For a little bit of rumor substantiation, because all this is all just speculation and rumor, but recently Pete Lau, who is a product officer at both OnePlus and OPPO, tweeted pictures of what can only be a foldable hinge, lending a lot of credence to this. And one more, let me see. Wait, sorry, I kind of lost. There's so many rumors. I'm losing track of my rumors. So, and I think according to rumor, these form factors would be coming to both OnePlus and OPPO, because I think another thing that is kind of countering our foldable fandom is availability. So a lot of the more interesting form factors that aren't Samsung's are available usually overseas only, and we're not able to get our greedy little fold love and hands on them. But hopefully, if these are coming to both OnePlus and OPPO, we'll have kind of different, just another, I mean, like I said, they're not different form factors, but we'll have a new, again, more competition is always good. So we'll have more foldables and flippables to get our hands on. So, yep. Are you down for an OPPO or OnePlus foldable?
I am so pro. Bring on all the foldables, the rollables, everything you can do. I think that it's, definitely given the market dominance that Samsung has shown and their dedication to the form factor. I'm not surprised to hear that Oppo and then also OnePlus are going to get into the marketplace because, it's almost becomes, competition based. You have to be like you're going to cede that to Samsung completely. Like, no, you want to get in the game. So I think it's great. The more foldables we see, the more legitimacy to the format there, to the design. I think it's a good thing. So let's see what they can do with it. Everybody does it a little differently, and I feel like Oppo and OnePlus have the propensity to be a little crazy with it. So I'd like to see what they do with that. So.
Do you think them copying the naming scheme of Samsung is a cheeky thing, or do you think it's just not pragmatic? Because it is pretty cheeky to just kind of copy their model numbers. I don't know. Do you think it's just, maybe this is just what we call flip phones, and this is, it's because I guess the term flip phone already existed. Do you think this is just maybe a generalizing of terms, or are they just being really cheeky and kind of going after Samsung's naming as well as their market share? I don't know.
I think you can't, with OnePlus, you can't discount the cheekiness. So like, I definitely think it could be out there. It could be a part of it. So
fair enough.
Who knows?
It would be funny. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Great. Well, nothing like talking about foldables. I could do it all night, but we're going to take another break, and we're going to thank our second sponsor of the evening, because this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Policy Genius. We pay hundreds of dollars per year to protect our homes, our cars, even our phones. But too many of us aren't taking steps to protect our family's finances. Mortgage payments, private student loans, and other types of debt don't just disappear if something happens to you. A life insurance policy can provide your loved ones with a financial cushion they can use to cover those costs, and it can provide you with peace of mind that even in a worst case scenario, they'll be protected. And let me tell you, the past 20 years of my life, I've been living fast and loose, right? and not spending money or taking the time to look at the things that kind of matter, like life insurance. But I got to tell you, now that I have a wife, have kids, have a family, have a home, have a mortgage, have all this sort of stuff, it stacks up. God forbid something ever happens. The last thing you want people to have to deal with is to sort out finances. I want my family to be safe, whether I'm here or not. And life insurance is a way to help make that happen. A lot of us think that you get life insurance through your job, but having life insurance through your job may not be enough. Most people need up to 10 times more coverage to properly provide for their families. Typically, life insurance gets more expensive as you age, so it's smart to get a policy sooner rather than later. So here's how Policy Genius works. Policy Genius is an insurance marketplace that makes it easy to compare quotes from top companies like AIG and Prudential in one place to find your lowest price on life insurance. You could save 50% or more on life insurance by comparing quotes with Policy Genius. Options start at $17 per month for $500,000 of coverage. Just click the link on the show page or head to policygenius.com/AAA to get personalized quotes in minutes and find the right policy for your needs. The licensed agents at Policy Genius work for you, not the insurance companies. They're on hand through the entire process to help you understand your options so you can make decisions with confidence. Policy Genius doesn't add on extra fees or sell your info to third parties. It has thousands of 5-star reviews across Google and Trustpilot. It has options that offer coverage in as little as a week and avoids unnecessary medical exams. Since 2014, Policy Genius has helped over 30 million people shop for insurance and placed over $150 billion in coverage. And while you're there, Policy Genius has home, auto, disability, renters, and more. Head to policygenius.com/AAA to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you can save. Thanks, Policy Genius, for helping protect our families, our financial futures, and for sponsoring this episode of All About Android. That's policygenius.com/AAA. Excellent. So with that, we got some interesting app news. So let's tee it up.
I love when Michelle's not here, he's still here with us as always.
As always.
Because our first story in the apps section is again courtesy of our very own Michelle Rahman, and it has something to do with the Pixel tablet. So we don't know a lot about the Pixel tablet just yet. How will it integrate with the rest of the Pixel ecosystem? What are its specs? Even though maybe we should stop focusing on the specs too much. Is it a dockable hub thing, which I think was one of Michelle's theories? What's up with all that bezel? Well, something that we do know, courtesy of Michelle, and also some interesting code that he found in the Android 13 drop on AOSP, is that the Pixel tablet, which is codenamed Tangor, has been moved to 64-bit only. So the conversation of 32-bit versus 64-bit is very long and technical. Michelle, as always, has written a lot of amazing articles kind of explaining what does this mean and why do we care. But basically, we have 32-bit and 64-bit architectures, which are more or less like the width of the data, width of the data registers in the CPU, yada, yada, yada. 64-bit is just better. Like a lot of your modern phones and computers even are running 64-bit. It allows for more data, which sounds like a simple thing, but the fact that the data is twice as wide results in things like better security, better performance, a lot more kind of complex and robust algorithms for all kinds of things, from, again, security to optimizations can happen. And it's worth noting that, if we want to look on the other side of the aisle, iOS has been 64-bit only since 2017. But what is interesting to note there is, of course, over on the other side of the aisle, they have a single hardware and software manufacturer who happen to be the same entity. And so this makes a lot of sense. 64-bit, supporting 64-bit is both a hardware thing. Literally, there are 64 bits in that CPU, but then the software itself has to take into account and be able to leverage this 64-bit architecture for things to really sing. So what's up with Android? Well, as we know on Android, we have more than just one software, more than just one hardware manufacturer, and in fact, more than just one person making software. So their journey to 64-bit is quite a saga. And for a good, I think, summarization of both the reasons why 64-bit is important and also the steps that Android, with its much more complicated space, has been taking towards 64-bit, Michelle has a really great Twitter thread, which I think is a good overview, which I would also check out, as well as kind of reading more in depth. But basically, Android's been working on getting to 64-bit for a long time. And if we go through the thread, actually, I was using Michelle's thread as a reference because it's so good. But yeah, they've been doing things like, prepping AOSP. They've been asking, for example, app developers to provide a 64-bit version along with a 32-bit version of the binary for a long time. And then basically, of course, requiring OEMs to kind of increasingly support 64-bit and only 64-bit. So all that is kind of starting to come to a head. And so what it looks like, or at least what Michelle is theorizing, is that with the Pixel tablet, Tangor being moved to 64-bit only, that 2023 might be the first year where Android is 64-bit. Period. So I, again, cannot explain nearly as well as Michelle does, but check it out. But it would be in general, 64-bit is just a better world. And just unfortunately, with the way Android is, it's taking us a while to get there, but it looks like we might be seeing the end of the tunnel to 64-bit. So I don't know, Ron, what do you think? You're excited for the 64-bit future? I mean, I feel like a lot of other places, other platforms, other tech in our lives is already 64-bit. Now Android.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and I got to give a shout out to Michelle, for whenever Ron Amadeo is writing an Ars Technica and recapping your blog post and referring to you, great job. That's like an achievement unlocked right there, because kind of what kicked all this off was we saw Ron over at Ars Technica wrote an article last week, saying that the 64-bit only could start with the Pixel tablet, the rumored Pixel tablet, which I can't wait for, but and referencing Michelle's work on the move to 64-bit, which is just really impressive. And so, I don't know, the 64-bit thing is interesting. And I thought this, and we have this under apps versus hardware, because while it's directly derived from the processors and the chipsets that are in the hardware that are defining what kind of software it is, that it purely falls on the developers to make 64-bit versions of the applications, right? That the latest example of this that I have is I have a Mac Mini as my desktop computer at home, kind of my legacy computer with all my media storage and all this sort of stuff. And I remember the move in Mac OS from 32-bit to 64-bit and going to launch an app and having the big circle with a line through it and be like, no, this is a 32-bit app, it doesn't work anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And just be like, oh man, right? And so there were some apps that were very, very small, donations based developers who were just like, nope, I'm done. Like I'm not doing that work, right? And so my question is really what will be the downstream effect to the Google Play Store and to apps and to things like that when there's going to be thousands of apps that are just abandoned because they are 32-bit only, right? Like don't work on 64-bit, right? And so I don't know. I guess to my question to you is, as a developer, how much does this change the game for you directly, or for the folks you work with, or folks that you know? Like how much of a switching from the 32-bit to 64-bit only, what kind of impact does that have on the actual development of apps?
I think it actually is. I think with Android development, it was pretty minimal. We don't do anything too particularly hardware centric. We're kind of at Trello. I'm sorry. I keep thinking of a lot of my stories come from my Trello times. And I think to us, this was relatively transparent. In fact, I can't even remember anything special that we had to do to get ready for 64-bit. And hopefully a lot of things, especially if they aren't specific, hardware specific, which might be my job now, because video processing and things like that are quite hardware specific, might have issues and might be specific. But I think if you're kind of more, let's say, I mean, no one's average, everyone's awesome, but if you're your average Android developer, this might just be doing something particular in Android Play Console, or making sure that your build spits out 64-bit APKs. It is worth noting in Michel's Twitter thread that he said today, 99.5% of apps are bundled with a 64-bit APK. So hopefully most people are ready. And I think there we go. Now I have actually the thread pulled up. Late 2017 is when Google started telling devs that apps must be bundled by a 64-bit version. And they gave a deadline of mid-2019. So I'm sure it was not a non-trivial update, but I feel like maybe, especially since it's been a while, hopefully most of us have done it. And it just seems like it's a new thing, because now the end products, the light at the end of the 64-bit tunnel is coming into view, that it seems like, 64-bit, really? Is that a thing? But it's kind of been a slow process, which granted this is going to take, and as you mentioned, it's hardware and software. And you can kind of deal with 32-bit on 64 for a little bit, but now we can't. So it not too bad, actually. In the last few years, we haven't really thought about it too much because we were ready already. And that's kind of been the Android platform, the Android team's strategy is just to bug us about stuff super, super early. And we'll never think we're going to need, we kind of don't really understand, we might not necessarily understand why, or we might be a little bit grumpy about doing these things. Cause what device is using 64-bit, back in 2017, but now into the 2022, 5 years later, now it's you had a plan. Okay, you thought, okay.
A little bit of a crystal ball, right? That little bit of a plan.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, 5 years in mobile time is ages. It's ages. But and which is probably why I can't freaking remember what we did for 64-bit compatibility, but Google had a plan or something. We did something, and it wasn't too bad. But Google has a plan, and it's nice to see that finally we're getting there. It's just, it took a long time to get there. 2017, 2015. Right. My goodness.
Well, we'll see what 2023 brings with 64-bit. There you go. So keep that on your radar. In the ongoing chapter of Android Auto woes, I thought this is worth talking about. So Android Auto users are reporting that their connection has broken with a phone not compatible error message after the latest update to Android Auto to version 7.8.6. If you go over and look in the Google support forums, there's tons of reports from users on devices like Samsung Galaxy S9, S10, S20, S21, S22, Note 20, Galaxy Z Flip 3, as well as OnePlus and Xiaomi and Asus, and there's even some Google Pixels reporting this. So it doesn't appear to be device specific. And basically everybody's reporting saying that they're getting a phone not compatible message when pairing their device with the Android Auto app. And it occurs on the in-car display. It's really not good. So it doesn't matter what version of Android the phone is running on. It doesn't seem like what device is running on it, and it seems to only be tied to the Android Auto 7.8.6 update. So gotta assume that this is a bug that slipped out, and I'm sure they're working on fixing it. Maybe we'll see 7.8.7 resolve this, but it's pretty much of a bummer if you can't pair your phone to Android Auto and use it at all. Like, phone not compatible, not cool. So I don't know if anybody's been affected by this in the viewing audience. If you have, write in. But yeah, we'll see what happens. And this is all on the eve of the Android Auto 8 release. So maybe it'll be fixed by Android Auto 8. Who knows? So
I'm nervous now. I still love Android Auto on my car. I'm just like holding on to it as best I can. If I ever sell this, I think I don't know what I do. I think I just would pull over and refuse to drive, which is not an adult thing to do. But they're taking my Android Auto away slowly and surely, and I don't like it. And I really don't like Google Assistant driving mode. Have I said that before? I think I have.
You have, yeah.
I hate it.
I know.
But okay, so if more positive news, if you are an OPPO ColorOS fan, then you might be excited to see the announcement and the launch of ColorOS 13. I think this article was really interesting because, so on top of the fact that, ColorOS has really been trying to move forward with their kind of design, ColorOS 11 had wonderful kind of very user-centric additions like a customizable dark mode, new battery saving modes, customization, floating windows. And then ColorOS 12, not unlike Android 12, was like a visual refresh and a lot of additional things and better kind of animations with a new engine. They're kind of, again, building more and more and trying to refine and really make a mark on their design with ColorOS 13, where they have this new aquamorphic design language that is supposed to be more vibrant and more fluid. A lot of tweaks, kind of like, how visual refreshes generally are. A lot of the elements are the same, but there's a lot of visual updates and tweaks and kind of betterment of things and pillifying of things. So that is definitely something to look out for. And I think what's also really interesting is, like, we actually had a story back, I think in February, I had to look it up, where, especially now that OnePlus is under the domain of OPPO, with ColorOS and OxygenOS, like, how do they meet? There was a unified OS, but they kind of said, no, never mind. We're going to keep going with Oxygen 13 and ColorOS 13. So I guess in the vein of how is OPPO going to kind of keep a consistent, experience across all its phones, ColorOS 13 is picking up quite a few features from Oxygen OS. So if you're an Oxygen OS fan and you like the shelf, which is kind of an additional home screen space where you can have like widgets and shortcuts and all the kind of dashboard style, that is now in ColorOS. Things like the AOD always on display styles, where you can have like your bit emojis, like Canvas, where you can have special wallpapers, that is also now in ColorOS. And these AOD always on display styles also integrate with, services like Spotify and other services in other countries like Zomato and Swiggy in India. So there's a lot of adding of Oxygen OS features and trying to integrate them, which is what is already in ColorOS. And there's just a whole bunch of fun stuff. Again, the visual refresh with the aquamorphic design, a lot of different things to the notification pane, kind of all the usual suspects for visual refreshes, plenty more wallpaper options and things like multi-connect, security updates, and all kinds of stuff. So for the full breakdown, please go and check out the updates on ColorOS 3. You can check out the Android Central article. And in terms of like who gets it, so of the OPPO devices that will get ColorOS 13, there are 60, and there's actually a breakdown like month by month on which devices will get ColorOS 13 when. So for the full, rundown of your particular OPPO device and when you're going to get to play around with aquamorphic design, shelves, and AOD styles on your OPPO phone, go to OPPO and check out the official dates for when you're going to get that. So I actually personally don't have an OPPO phone, but I really do like the look of a lot of these things. It definitely feels like where Android 12 and 13 are going in terms of style, but also, in its own unique way. I don't know, Ron, are you a big fan of ColorOS at all?
Not really. And I thought it was interesting because I thought this particular story was interesting because I know that a lot of the OnePlus users were moaning over the merging of Oxygen OS into ColorOS, right? And kind of like the
Right.
OPPO ColorOS taking over the OS for OnePluses, because a lot of people really love aspects of Oxygen OS, but it's neat to see, and this is kind of what I thought they would do, is that what OPPO's done is they've taken stuff from Oxygen and taken stuff from Color and have now made it, and they're just using Color moving forward. Like there are features in there from Oxygen that, hopefully makes OnePlus users happy. But it just goes to show how the evolution of these, like on top of Android versions, similar to Samsung now, with OPPO with Color, and these different flavors of Android and what they do to kind of stand out on their own. So I think it's interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested to learn what do Oxygen users think of this? What do Color users think of this? Are Color users happy? Are Oxygen users I'm just kind of curious if you're an OPPO user and you are kind of getting your Oxygen details or features for the first time, just let us know what you think. Or maybe you're, or otherwise if you don't like it. So yeah, just let us know.
Yep. Always let us know. Love
Always
to hear
let
from
us
you.
know. Absolutely.
You know who's someone else we love to hear? Our good friend JR, who's got another tip for us this week. So why don't we hear what JR's got to say?
Hell yeah.
Hey, hope everyone's having a spectacular week so far. Today I want to do something a teensy bit different, a little more specific than the sort of stuff we've been talking about in our conversations here so far. Today's tip is primarily for the Pixel owners among us, specifically anyone who's carrying a Pixel 6, Pixel 6 Pro, or Pixel 6a phone. And the tip is all about the tap. I'm talking about the super handy, really neat quick tap system Google's been building into its Pixel phones ever since, well, this one, last year's Pixel 6 model. The option's buried pretty deep in the Pixel phone's settings under System, then Gestures. But once you find it, oh man, can it ever save you a ton of time, make your life a whole lot easier. By default, Quick Tap lets you tap the back of your phone twice to take a screenshot, pull up Assistant, control media playback, or a few other possible commands. But the most useful possibility for that system, if you ask me, is weirdly missing from the list. How helpful would it be to be able to double tap your phone to silence it anytime, anywhere, and then double tap it again to take it back off silent? It'd be the perfect way to put that quick tap system to use, but for whatever reason, Google doesn't give us the option. Or so it'd seem. The secret to adding a fast silencing command into your Pixel's quick tap system is an unassuming little app called Mute. Mute. Doesn't look like much, hasn't even been updated in, 5 years, something like that, as the ancient-looking screenshots in its Play Store description make so painfully clear. But look, don't let that deter you. The app does one thing, and it does it well. When it's activated, it completely silences all of your system's sounds, both with Do Not Disturb mode and with pushing the media and ring volumes all the way down for you. It doesn't require any system permissions either, so there's really nothing to worry about with it. All right, can you see where this is going? Once you've got Mute installed, and we'll throw a link into the show notes, by the way, because it's a tough one to find by searching. You just march your way back into that same spot of your Pixel phone's settings. System, Gestures, then Quick Tap. Scroll all the way down the list of options there, and you'll see an option called Open App. Tap the gear icon alongside that, then select Mute from the list of choices that appears, and that's pretty much it. Now, anytime you do that double tap on the back of your purty little Pixel, you'll feel a short vibration, your phone will toggle itself in or out of a fully silent state, and that's really all there is to it. Not bad, right? Hey, if you've got a Pixel, any old Pixel, you've got to come check out my free Pixel Academy e-course. It's a 7-day email adventure that'll teach you all sorts of little-known time savers for your phone, everything from out-of-sight camera tricks to next-level nuisance reducers, all sorts of good stuff. It's completely awesome and completely free for you. Just head over to androidintel.net/pixeltwit to get started. That's androidintel.net/pixeltwit. I'll see you there, and I'll see you right back here next week.
Well, J.R. Raphael once again coming through with not only a fantastic tip, but another great example of how if you want something on Android, just because the OS doesn't provide it, a developer can, because that's how Android works. There's cool stuff on there. And even though this app looks ancient, it's serving a great purpose, isn't it? Right? So
I think the fact that it looks ancient is amazing because that means it supports a whole bunch of devices and that it works. And I love this. And I freaking need this from my parents because it's just more simpler. I think I keep getting calls like, well, I set my volume to mute, but I don't know how, like it's still making noise. And like they were in some situation where muting is not appropriate. So I love this tip so much. And
well, I mean, to that point, I mean, our listeners are spared the expletives coming through the behind the scenes chat from Burke, who as for almost a year now been screaming about the pixel volume sliders. So so I feel like he's all aboard this. In fact, he said, "OMG, I love this," and he spelled love LUV. So
that's true love when it's with an LUV.
Exactly. And I do like that Scooter X in the chat room points out that the Mute app was updated last on February 3rd, 2017, which was five years ago. But hey, if the app, if it ain't broke, why fix it? What do you need to update it? It doesn't take any permissions. It does one thing and it does it well. So good job to the developer of the of the Mute app, and a great little hack on how to plug it into your Pixel and get tap on mute. So thank you, JR Raphael. Always a pleasure. I'm so glad that he's doing these tips on the show. It's so much fun. We'll stay tuned for next week to see what he comes up with for sure. So. All right, so we're going to take our last break of the evening, and we're going to thank our next sponsor of this episode, because this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Blueland. And did you know that an estimated 5 billion plastic hand soap and cleaning bottles are thrown away each year? And if that's not bad enough, most cleaning formulas are 90% water, which is heavy to ship, leading to excessive carbon emissions. Plus, those products are often filled with nasty ingredients like chlorine and ammonia. That's a lose-lose situation for you and the planet. And do you ever feel overwhelmed by the number of plastic bottles and containers you throw away? I sure do. Ever thought about purchasing more eco-friendly products but didn't know where to start? Or maybe you've tried a few green products but found them pricey or ineffective. If you answered yes to any of these questions, meet Blueland. Blueland is on a mission to eliminate single-use plastics by reinventing home essentials that are good for you and the planet. Blueland's innovative tablet refill solution takes up to 10 times less space than a traditional bottle, and their powerful formulas keep your home clean and smelling amazing. The idea is simple. Grab one of those beautiful forever bottles, fill it with warm water, drop in the tablet, and get cleaning. Refills start at $2, and you don't have to buy a new plastic bottle every time you run out. You can even set up a subscription so you never run out of the products you use the most, and save even more when you buy in bulk. From cleaning sprays to hand soap to toilet cleaner and laundry tablets, all Blueland products are made with ingredients you can feel good about. And I got to tell you, I've heard Jason rave about Blueland, and he is totally accurate with it. My wife and I are trying to do more about making our house eco-friendly. We want to, want the planet to be around for our kids. And when you think about the excessive waste that goes into plastic bottles and cleaning products and things like that, a solution like this not only helps you keep your house clean, does it affordably, and is good for the planet. That's a great equation in my book. So Blueland definitely gets a thumbs up for me. If you want to get started, you can try their Clean Essentials Kit, which has everything you need to get started. Blueland products come in refreshing signature scents like fresh lemon and eucalyptus mint. And for a limited time, their hand soap is getting a summer upgrade with 3 refreshing new scents: strawberry rhubarb, citrus patchouli, and my personal favorite, coconut palm. Right now, you can get 15% off your first order when you go to blueland.com/AAA. That's 15% off your first order of any Blueland products at blueland.com/AAA. That's blueland.com/AAA. Get 15% off and keep your house smelling great and ultra clean. Thank you, Blueland. You're awesome. Thanks for sponsoring this episode of All About Android. Go check out blueland.com/AAA. Excellent. So with that, it is on to, we're going to ride this episode out into the sunset with some feedback from the community, the All About Android community. As always, it is great to hear from you. You can email us at AAA@twit.tv or give us a call at 347-SHOW-AAA. Send us voicemail, send us video mail, whatever you got. We want to hear from you. But we've got some great stuff. And our first email comes from Raul, who writes in and says, "I'm contacting you to vent a little." This is a great way to start, by the way, with a vent session.
I know.
So thank you, Raul. This is great.
Yes.
Raul says, I am all in on Google for everything. I have Google Fi, YouTube Premium, Google One, Google Play Pass, YouTube Music, among others. I have family plans for YouTube Premium, YouTube Music, and I share 2 terabytes of Google One storage with that family as well. When Google Fi Unlimited Plus plan offered 100 gig of free storage, they were not able to give me an additional 1 gig because of the 2 terabyte plan. So after hours with tech support for Google Fi and Google One, I got a $2 monthly discount on my Google One. Wow. So fast forward to 2 months ago, I added my oldest daughter to my Google Fi Unlimited Plus plan. So technically she should get the 100 gig free from Google One. However, it's the same situation as before where they cannot increase my 2 terabyte storage, but this time I'm being passed around Google Fi and Google One about who needs to take care of this. And also we are playing musical chairs between my daughter and I about who needs to talk to those departments. I love my Google products, but the whole family plan and their lack of interaction with each other is probably frustrating more people than me. I recently bought a Pixel 6 Pro and could not add the Pixel Pass because of my family plans, so I am not quote-unquote benefiting from that, and I'm pretty sure I will not be included in the future. I just hope venting here gets my complaints to the right ears. Love you guys, even you, Ron. So first off, Raul, your little even you, Ron, at the end makes me think that you don't really love me. So I don't know. It's a little passive aggressive there, Raul. I don't know. I love you though, but a little odd phrasing. I really hope some.
I don't know if that's odd or not.
It's the distinction that he felt that I questioned that he needed to make. No, but anyway,
He's not wrong.
All right, Bert. But I do hope your vent to us, someone at Google, if you're listening, you can help Raul out with this. This is the problem with Google across the board, and we've talked about it. I've been doing the show for how many years has it been, Burke? 10 to 11 years now.
It's
often at Google,
at
least, yeah. Often at Google, the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing, and the right hand doesn't even speak the same language as the left hand. And it can be really frustrating, and it leads to individual use cases like your own that slip through the cracks, and they just don't know what to do with it. We've seen it time and time again as we transition to new products and new pricing plans and new subscriptions and things like that. You think that it's one company, but it's not. It's a bunch of smaller business units within the larger company that aren't always talking to each other, and this is incredibly frustrating, especially because there's a term in business called a whale. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's often used in mobile games where the idea of a dream customer who buys into the ecosystem and spends lots of money with them and has brand loyalty, right? So Raul, you are a whale to Google. You are their most valuable customer. And when you're on the phone with them trying to sort this out, remind them of that, because you're exactly the kind of person they want, using their phones, using their devices, using their subscription plans. And they should be able to figure this stuff out. So it's immensely frustrating, and I wish we could solve it for you, but we can't. But hopefully we can, raise a megaphone to your issue, and hopefully someone at Google's listening. So we'll see.
Yeah, 120%, Raul. You're the model Google customer, and it's just very sad that this is your experience. And it kind of vaguely reminds me a tiny bit of actually some dev problems. Google's a huge company, obviously, and as you said, Ron, that leads to left hand not knowing what the heck the right hand's doing, and otherwise. It also seems like a lot of times when they offer new services or try to upsell you or cross-sell you, it's easiest if you are a brand new user. And it reminds me of devs sometimes, because a lot of times with new features with Android that come out, it's easiest to implement them if you're starting a new project from scratch, like your greenfield, as we say. And it almost feels like they focus so much on kind of selling things in the moment, we have this new thing, and assume that you are not, that they're not like you, Raul, where you've been a loyal customer for a long time, and they just say, well, look at all these new things that you can do, and there's no backwards compatibility for the old services. I mean, talking about backwards compatibility for software and hardware. How about service backwards compatibility and making sure that you get what you deserve, especially being so loyal. So I don't know. I just think it's really interesting. It really has nothing to do with the Android development team, but maybe it's just a side effect, a symptom of being such a huge company and trying to integrate and cross-sell and package and everything. And that's really disappointing. And I'm really sorry. And yes, I really do hope that someone can help Raul out, because obviously he's all in on Google and he deserves a much better customer experience, man. Or person. Sorry, I shouldn't gender things. But yes, you deserve everyone deserves a better experience. I'm going to shut up now. I can't though. I have to read the next email. Okay, so I'm okay. Well, thank you so much, Raul, for sharing your vent. And next, we're going to hear another rant from Marlon Yoder. I'm sorry, Yoder. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. So Marlon writes saying, for a long time, I've been trying to understand how app updates work in Android, and I thought maybe a dev knows the answer to this question. I update my apps manually, and I never understood where the dates come from on updates. In that I can have all my apps updated and then the next day have updates that show they were updated weeks or even months ago, but then also noticed that the dates in the app list doesn't match the date under what's due. For instance, right now, 2 apps that show they were updated on July 29th, but under what's due, they show it as August 9th and August 4th. Those dates never match. All right, so a dev does know the answer to this, but only because this dev started a new job and had to install a bunch of new apps. So, so I guess a not hidden secret is that devs and tech people in general can be very bad at words, and I think the problem here is that using the word update. The word update is used in too many ways and in too many different forms. So for clarity, let's kind of break apart how Google Play is using the word update. So I will say that when an app developer creates a new version of their app, we'll use the noun form of update. Okay, there is an update. So there's a new version of that software. Okay, so the date at which that developer put that new noun update out into the world is what is showing under what's new, and generally what's showing under, the app info. Now, for you person, we're gonna use the adjectival, adverbial, and verb forms of update. So if you go into my the Google Play Store and you look at my apps list, this is going to be the version that you have. And so it shows you when you, the person, updated that app last. So I just joined Adobe. They use Outlook, no comment. But if we go into my apps list, you can see Outlook among other things and so what it's showing is that Outlook. Oh shoot, I kind of lost the bottom of it. I made too short of a screenshot. What's the date on my screenshot? Sorry, more behind the curtain type stuff. Sorry, let me pull that up.
December 21, 2021.
Right. Okay. So, sorry, let me pull it up. All right. So on my apps list, it shows 2 apps in the short ass screenshot that I took. It shows YouTube and Microsoft Outlook. So my phone updated these apps at those dates. So YouTube at the time I took this had downloaded an update 5 days ago, and Microsoft Outlook was updated on December 21st, 2021. Okay. So those are the versions of that app that I have on my phone. So if we go to the Microsoft Outlook page, the date's going to be different. So because I had installed Microsoft Outlook on August 8th, on August 8th, if I go to the Microsoft Outlook page on Play Store, it actually shows updated on August 11th. So basically, I downloaded Microsoft Outlook on August 8th. The last time a developer put out a noun update into the world was December 21st. I downloaded it, so it's updated. Now they put out a new update on August 8th. So that's why the two versions, the 2 numbers the 2 dates are different, because it's this confusion of are you updated? Yes. Is there an update? It's really confusing. It's not actually much clearer now that I'm explaining it, but it's basically a difference between the fact that when did you download the latest version, and because of the fact that you don't always get the latest version right away, there's a lot of rules that Google Play follows. Are you using the app right now? Is it in the background? Are you on Wi-Fi, or are you on data? There's a lot of guidelines that the Google Play Store tries to follow when downloading new versions of a software to try to make your experience better, your battery life, and whatever. So when you're looking at an individual app page, that's the date where a developer pushed out an update to you. And in this list of my apps is when you last you and your phone last physically did an update on that app. So that's why there's a difference. And it's still freaking confusing me when I'm explaining it because, again, devs are bad at using words. We use the same word for what is in essence two different processes, and a developer creating a new version of a software and then the user actually downloading it. So unfortunately, because Google decided to use the word update in those two places, that's why it's really confusing. And I don't know if I clarified it any better, but there. See, dev's still not good at words. I tried to explain it to you and I probably confused myself more, but that's what happened.
I don't want to say anything, but I'm not a dev and I don't know if we cracked this mystery.
I don't think we cracked it. It's just, it's bad word usage. Sorry. You can just ignore the last 4 minutes of when talking.
Yeah, basically it has to do a lot with when the developers push out the version, when they update their description, when you install it. Oftentimes, especially the way the Google Play Store works, is that you could have a version in testing and then go live while you have another version in the queue. So oftentimes I know we get stacked as to what the description could be talking about a version that hasn't been released yet, right? And so the Google Play Store from the developer side of things definitely can cause for confusion. I know this isn't the answer that Martin Yoder wants to hear, but it's like Marlon doesn't want to hear. Just don't pay attention to the details.
Just don't pay attention. If they don't match, then so if they don't match, close out that app that is not matching, and try to see if you can just update it. That's like the best thing you can do. Basically, the version that you have and the version that is available to you are different. So close that app, and then try to start an update from there, and you're good. And blame us for both bad words, not like bad words like cursing, but like bad usage of words. And that's pretty much it. As you can see, I'm a living example. We're really crap at this. So
this is what happens when Jason's not on the show. By the way, the wheels come off the bus, and
totally off the bus. They're off the bus. The bus is sliding down a hill. Sparks are flying. I'm just hanging out the windows like, you get it now? No, let me try again. Oh, sorry, y'all. All right.
Well, why don't we take us home? Because now it is time, my favorite time of the show. It's time for the email of the week. And this is a special one to me because it's from my pal, Kevin, who I met at Pintastic in Massachusetts a few months ago in June. He says, "Hey, Ron and the entire AAA crew, it's Kevin from Pintastic in Massachusetts. I just want to let you know that I got my Pixel 6a as promised. And here are my basic feelings. It's snappier than my old 3A, which is great. I find it to be a little large and heavy, but not to the point that I'm complaining about it. I still prefer the rear fingerprint sensor over in-screen, but I haven't had any issues with the in-screen one really, though it is a bit more sensitive, it seems. I miss the back arrow. I'm okay with not having it, but it seems I accidentally swipe back more than I should, I feel. Best part was the trade-in on my 3A was $300, so my overall net cost was under $200. You can't beat that. Here's hoping I get to say hi to you at next year's Pintastic. And I just want to say, Win, you're a great addition to the AAA team. Longtime listener, like since the beginning, and a pinball player, Kevin. And Kevin, great to hear from you. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for listening. I think we definitely got to meet up at next year's Pintastic. So let's get in touch next year and do that. But in terms of your feedback about moving from a 3A to 6A, I feel like this is a exact script of what it's like for someone to go from a phone that's 3 generations to the current generation, because it's definitely going to feel snappier. I think every time I move to a new phone, especially when you jump a generation, it always feels different. Right? It feels heavier or larger or different. It always takes like the phone feel takes some time to get used to it. Adjusting to an in-display fingerprint sensor is never, it's not, I don't say it's not easy, but it's always an adjustment. I know I had an on-screen fingerprint sensor when I had the OnePlus 7, I think, was 7 Pro or 7T. And that took a while to get used to. It's like, whoa, this is crazy. As far as the back arrow goes, I feel like I've mourned and moved on from the back arrow several years ago, but you're just catching up with the rest of us. But yes, the back arrow is missed. I share that as well. But man, you can't be getting a Pixel 6a for under $200. That's a great trade-in. I don't even know where did you get that trade-in from? That's crazy. So congratulations on your new phone. Thanks for writing in. Thanks for playing pinball. You Scorbit. You're awesome. You get the email of the week, my friend.
Oh,
Wow.
but also,
A rim shot and the email of the week, Horns.
I will say, I think, I don't know if for some reason this is locked off of the 6A, but I think you can still get back the back arrow. I think it's in setting. Oh, shoot. Okay, so Scooter X is kind of backing me up that you actually go to your, Kevin, try going to your phone settings apps, go to system, then gestures and system navigation. And then if you pick 3-button hold on. You can pick no buttons, which is the gesture nav, which I still hate.
I can verify that.
2-button navigation and 3-button navigation. So hopefully you can get your soft button back. I really miss it a lot. I definitely, I keep it on because as a dev, I need to know these things, but I feel like I'm suffering for my work. It's awful. And thank you so much, Kevin. I'm sorry. I feel like you might feel less about me being a great addition after the bus fire. That was my explanation of.
You got to move on, Quinn. You got don't reference it. You just got to move on.
No, I'm going to lampshade the crap out of this, man. No, but thank you so much, Kevin. Oh, goodness.
All right. So that brings us to the end of the show, a Jason-less show, which always is an adventure. So Win, if you're able to, why don't you tell folks where they can follow you without talking about your release dates or any sort of app updates?
You can find, my goodness. So you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Code Monkey. I generally talk about Android dev stuff and other things. And you can also find some technical talks that I've done, including code and video, at my website, randomlytyping.com. And that is all.
All right. And I'm going to annoy Burke by first telling everybody to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at RonXO. Check out the aforementioned Scorebit in the Google Play Store if you play pinball like my good friend Kevin. But I dropped a link in the doc that I didn't do earlier, Burke, so I apologize. So I'm vamping. But if you want to listen to more, actually, I've got multiple. I'm sorry, I totally forgot. I got to do another one too. But if you're listening for more podcasts, I got 2 I want you to listen to. The first one is over at iFanboy. I talked this month. Me and my pals talked about our favorite TV deaths. So we did our top 5 TV deaths. As we're talking about our favorite TV shows and the deaths that happen within them, as well as we talk about what TV shows we've been watching, which includes, I talked about The Orville on Hulu, which is fantastic. If you're a Star Trek fan, The Orville is the best Star Trek show on TV, even though it's not actually Star Trek. But so go to ifanboy.com, subscribe to that podcast, take a listen to that. But if you want even more podcast fun, I dropped another link in the doc, Burke, which you need to pull up now. But I was so honored to join Tom Merritt's new podcast called A Word with Tom Merritt, where Tom and I talked for over an hour about the word fan, which apparently I have some affiliation with. But we had a great time. Talking with Tom. It was a great conversation. I wish we could have done it over drinks like it is here in his artwork. But we had a great time chatting. And so go subscribe.
Is a great man.
Yeah, Tom is a great man and such a great conversationalist. And so if you want to listen to, and I'm very lucky to a man that I call friend. And so if you want to listen to a great conversation between 2 friends, go listen to A Word with Tom Merritt. And not only my episode, he's got other episodes with other great people. It's one of my favorite ones to listen to. So go check that out. So cool. And we heard from our friend J.R. Raphael, who you can go check out at Android Intelligence. Huge thanks and shout out to Victor, who's going to have to make some sense of this show behind the scenes, and also to Burke, who's pressing all the buttons. Thank you guys, appreciate it. And we sorely miss Jason every week whenever he's not on, so he'll be back next week. But real quickly, a quick reminder: if you're not a member of Club Twit, what are you doing? Club Twit is our ad-free subscription tier. It provides all Twit shows with no ads, and also an exclusive Twit Plus podcast feed with tons of extra content and a members-only Discord. And you get all that for $7 a month, or you can pay for a full year for just $84, which is fantastic. So go to twit.tv/clubtwit. It's a great value if you're a Twit fan. Get on board, get into that members-only Discord. It's a blast, and get all the bonus content you can. So there you go. That's it for this week. All About Android publishes every Tuesday evening. You can come watch us live on twit.tv/live at 5 p.m. Pacific on Tuesdays, or subscribe to the show. Go to twit.tv/AAA, where you subscribe on Pocket Cast or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe. Tell your friends about it. You can give us a call and leave a voicemail at 347-SHOW-AAA, or as mentioned earlier, you can email us and maybe you could get the email of the week. Thank you, Burke, by emailing AAA@twit.tv. That's AAA@twit.tv, AAA@twit.tv. And we'll see you next time on All About Android. So long.
Bye.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I am the host of Hands-On Photography here on Twit TV. I know you got yourself a fancy smartphone, you got yourself a fancy camera, but your pictures are still lacking. Can't quite figure out what the heck shutter speed means? Watch my show. I got you covered. Want to know more about just the ISO and exposure triangle in general? Yeah, I got you covered. Or if you got all of that down, you want to get into lighting, making things look better by changing the lights around you. I got you covered on that too. So check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. Go to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.